Hi, Tex. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Boris.
Just a few more minutes here. Welcome to our visitors there. We're just going to wait another few minutes to see if we get a few more committee members here. Today will be a little bit different. We are actually going to be uniquely without our chair or our vice chair. So this will be treated a little bit more like a work session, but we'll still try to run through the basic agenda that we had. Obviously, just no decisions would be put up today. So.
Hey all, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever.
Hey, Rob.
I've got a question actually. Could you maybe bring me up to speed in regards to the budget process and so on? I mean, there was a lot of pushback from Charles and so on. So what's the current status here? How do we move forward from here?
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, as of right this moment, I do not have further information. We're pending an update from a meeting that I believe ends immediately as our meeting begins. So I expect at least a few minutes of latency, if not most of the hour, before we hear an update from a collective standpoint. So I don't have full details on that at this time, unfortunately. But as soon as we do have them, we will put those out here for you all.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so I do see we just have 4 committee members as of right now, but we do have some of our developer advocates. So at the very least, we can get things started a little bit. And the agenda, of course, is in ClickUp, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up for everybody right now. Take a quick look. Okay, and of course today is the 6th of March, and for anyone who, I don't imagine this is the case, but if anyone doesn't know what meeting they joined, it is the open source committee meeting. Again, disclaimers, we do not have our chair nor our vice chair today, so we're going to treat this more as a work session. No decisions or formal updates to be made in that regard. But just as far as what we're taking a closer look at here, we'll get a check-in from our developer advocates. We'll also take a look at going over some of the projects that are up for incubation review. We will also talk about committee members getting more engaged in some of the working groups that we have, and we'll cover any other business there. Again, we do have a lot of visitors, so it looks like we may get a little bit closer to the end pretty quick. So we'll try to get some questions answered for you all if we can. If you have them at all, feel free to start threading them here in the comments. Other than that, I'll give you the space a little bit later on. Without further ado, I will pass this off to Bernard, and I noticed Siganya was here as well. So they host our Thursday sessions for the Developer Experience Working Group. So they will have their second session today. Alex and Uday I haven't seen them here today, but they normally host the Wednesday sessions, and so next week they will be up. So we have Wednesday, Thursday, alternating time zones as well, just to kind of get that spread out. And yeah, Bernard.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Bernard Spanda, one of the 4 developer advocates. I'll just highlight our experience with the sessions that we recently launched for the developer experience last week, which was Thursday. Today, we are going to have another one at 8 p.m. But the purpose of these sessions, they are aligned with our goals as developer advocates. And these ones, I think most of us were aware of them, which is to identify developer challenges. And then we did a survey, and out of the survey, the graphs are here. We noted what these respondents highlighted as developer needs. And to follow up on that survey, then we are running these live sessions every week, but we divided ourselves. We are 4, 2 per week, 2 per week. Just to share with you, last week's session, it was attended by some new developers. I cannot say the least, but what we gathered from the sessions which we had, it is very common with Cardano, where people are really seeking assistance with the developer tools, making things easy for them. And then we managed to recruit, so it's a proof that it's working. The survey we conducted is working. And then there are some who didn't attend because we're expecting 48 of the respondents to our survey. But when I made a follow-up to say some of them why they didn't come. Well, I think there was a mix-up there because there were 2 times. Others didn't pay attention to the email that came. So that is why now to fix this problem, we do notify them like early in the morning to say, okay, we are going to have this session going on. So basically, in short, this is improving onboarding, documentation, tooling, and development workflow on the open source side. So that is all what I can give you in short. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Bernard. Siganya, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to add a few more points along with Bernard's point. Since our last OAC meeting, we had 2 productive sessions of developer experience working group meetings. There was a mix of novice developers and developers who had experience around maybe 2 to 3 years. Yeah, but the few of the main points they considered giving us as an improvement is they felt the documentation was very much scattered. So they just like an actionable item, what we have in our list is to centralize all the information, the Cardano information, into a single repository, like have like a single one with all the links where they can go. That is one request. And also to create video tutorials of basic Cardano transactions and smart contract interactions. These were the 2 major discussions we had, which we have like an actionable item to work on. And the other suggestion was to include the survey in the Intersect website. So these, if I could summarize from the last two meetings, these three were the major points that we have like an actionable item on us.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, definitely just developer advocates more so than actually being out there and connecting with them. It is another feedback source for us here at the open source office. We're going to continue to use that to the best of our ability here and work to see how we can get things improved. So good stuff in the works. All right. I think it's a good call out. I'm going to kind of move stuff a little bit here in the agenda. So for committee members who we do have here today, do believe it's really important if we can get some engagement in the working groups. So again, I can get those on the committee calendar if they're not already. But what we have right now is like this week, it's going to be the DevX working group at 6 p.m. UTC. That's Thursday. And then the alternating week is Wednesdays, and that meeting is at 1 p.m. UTC. I have the calendar link. It's in the Discord. I did pin it just the other day. So, but I will work with you and forward that along again as needed. Any questions, committee members? Alrighty, sounds good. Yep. Yeah, Sandeep.
Do we have any update from the tooling working group? Was there a meeting?
I don't believe there was yet. I know there was a charter that was drafted. As far as I'm aware, that has not been officially started or met yet. But Christian can probably tell me more.
Yeah, Sandeep, we haven't started anything yet. We're waiting for the decision from Longmont to come through effectively tomorrow. And then we'll reevaluate the tooling working group and getting it started. Just want to make sure we're caught up to date with the new budget process before we start it.
Yes, thank you. I have another question, if I can.
Go ahead.
The project incubation reviews, the agenda point on old business, is it about the 4 projects that we were given to review?
Correct.
How do we continue with that? I do have read through that and do have some review points and my opinions on whether or not they are suitable.
Since today is a little bit more of a work session, we'll go through and discuss this. But the goal or the idea is, by the next time that we meet, or even async, that we'll be able to say yes, go with this project, or no, don't go with this project. So we'll talk through some of that here today.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought I heard another hand. Was I crazy or?
That was me.
Oh, okay. No trouble. All right. So we'll get right into the reviews, unless there are any other blockers or questions. Excuse me.
Just one.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, how does the funnel look like? How do you get in touch with developers? This question goes to the developer advocates, I guess.
Are you looking for
how do
they
people find you?
specifically reach out, or?
Yeah, or how do people find you? How do they get in touch with you, and what is the process there? Is there anything I don't know, where we can create awareness and I wouldn't even know if someone asked me, I wouldn't even know right now how to refer and where to point them to.
Gotcha. So, well, we definitely don't want that to be the case. So I do want to highlight that we do have a developer advocate water cooler channel. It's on Discord. It's found right beneath the working groups. The best news about our developer advocates, and I'll let them speak to this if they want to at all, but they are actually developers in the community. That was something specifically that we looked for last year when we kicked this program off. So the application process, the questions that we went through and the whole interviews was, hey, how active are you out there in the developer space? What does this actually mean to you? And So it was a pretty low number of candidates. I'd love to run this again, and I think the goal would be to hopefully do that going into 2026, is to look at a new cohort of developer advocates. But again, they are developers working on different things within the ecosystem, so they are expanding their reach within their local areas and relevant to the things that they work on. Johnny.
Yeah, just in addition to referring to the Discord, there's also this link here that I've put in the chat for the Developer Advocate Program, like listing bios of the advocates and links to their LinkedIn profiles. So that could be a good place to start for anybody wanting to reach out specifically to an existing advocate.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Bernard?
Yes, let me add, I still believe there are some new groups that are coming up and also some other town halls where we never reached. We tried by all means to go to each place and introduce this developer advocate program to different developers. That is the first thing. The second thing, on our survey, which we distributed widely all around Cardano communities, forums, X, where we could reach, we did indicate how new developers, existing developers can contact or work with us.
Can you drop a link in chat to the survey results specifically?
The survey is actually closed, so it was run throughout the month of February.
The results, I'm saying.
The results are still being analyzed.
I see. So there's not yet a public link. Sorry, apologies.
Yep, no trouble. Yeah, so we just got it closed over the past weekend here, and they've just begun their analysis. So we're going to get that put together formally, and then yes, we would be planning on sharing that.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay. We'll move it right along here. I know there were at least one or two that had gone in and put in some comments and whatnot. Christian, do you want to help lead on this at all here, or you just might have a little bit more information? But basically, we're looking to get this to the tooling working group as that spins up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so go ahead and scroll to the bottom text. So what the commercialization working group went back to, all the way to the bottom, there's a little box denoting, oh, is this this project submission? Sorry, I thought we were talking about the other piece.
Which is it? Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. One decision I needed to get out of this was the accelerator working group proposal. They have a meeting later today, and I think we have a vote conclusion on that. So we'll do that after this. But essentially, just to remind everyone how this process works, we haven't fully formalized it, but essentially these forms, this is just 4 projects from Emergo who want to come into incubation. We're trying to assess their level of maturity and or if they follow, is this something Intersect should invest in or help incubate? You need to keep in mind whether this is going to be a product versus a open source library, and whether it's going to be a sandbox project, i.e. we can foster it, but they need to prove the use case and we can help with that, and or it's already a in growth project or mature stage. And then anything we agree here also goes to the TSC to review too.
So while we're on here, and if anybody here wants or needs me to flip through all of them, I can. But I would definitely say that these questions here are probably some of the key ones that we want to take a look at. Is there overlap? How does it integrate? Of course, the overall fit. So it's a couple of different ways of asking the same topic, but there are 3 different approaches to how you might look at that. What are the benefits and why is Intersect going to be the best place to help? Above is just going to be a whole bunch of details and things that are going to give you additional context here, as well as the overall project description. So again, for OSC members, you guys do have access to this. The link to the folder is not only, it's in multiple channels. If you're having issues accessing it, please let me know.
No issues. I've read through all 4.
Okay. Andy?
I'm more of a meeting commenter than I am a page commenter, which isn't a good idea. So I might start page commenting more often.
Gotcha.
One question here on this. I did see that the roadmap seems incomplete. Roadmap context. Maybe it's missing something. The last sentence on the roadmap context.
Yeah, it just cuts off mid-sentence. We aim to launch Carbon.
Let me check on that here. Hang on just a second.
The other, to highlight too, there's 3 outcomes for these. So either we approve it and send it on to the TSC, or we reject it and send it back for them to add more clarity to any questions we have, or we flat out just reject it altogether. So just keep those in mind.
It could just be a copy-paste issue because apparently things were moved from one place to another. I don't know if the original text cuts off like that.
I'm checking that right now.
Could have been. Sebastian, Robin?
Hey everybody. My question was related to the previous one. What is the scenario if all these proposals get rejected? What's next in the process?
They can come back after. I mean, we could give rationale as to why it was rejected. Give them a chance to respond, maybe. But it just means the project stays with Emergo. It just Intersect won't incubate it.
Makes sense.
So,
And
yeah.
what are the sources of projects? Our sources of projects in this, where we can go and see other projects, other prospects.
Yeah, I think we haven't even fully defined exactly what we're wanting to support out, because you do have core Cardano GovTool, but what outside of that? I'm kind of in the mindset we should avoid any products specifically with commercial incentives, and stick to open source libraries for community.
For sure.
In which case, this one would come under a product, right? Carbon credit system. That's a finished thing rather than a library for people to use. But Robin.
Yeah, exactly. And I even thought, didn't we speak about this 2 weeks ago? Or was it a different proposal?
No, we talked about a carbon credit system that was being tabled, yeah, but it wasn't finished with the proposal stage yet, I don't think.
Okay. But we kind of rejected it already, no?
Well, I expressed skepticism at carbon credits in general, but I raised that as a bias in my part, and I wondered if it was something to be dismissed from my bias.
I mean, I would need to listen to the recording, but I thought it was more than just you. I thought it was like,
oh, if there were others, I don't. Apologies.
No, sorry. Yeah, what I mean is, I think there was like common ground on this is not really a fit.
Out of curiosity for the group too, if we decide that this is something we don't want to sponsor, should we still have the TSC do their review too? So that way you have 2 bi-party things, and then it's about reconciliation. Just curious.
I'm not against a second opinion.
Okay.
With the caveat that I'd be part of that second opinion because I'm in the other committee.
Well, I think it gives a fair chance to projects, even if we're wholly against one. But yeah, I don't know.
I'll jump in here. I did check. This is all that was provided, so it's possible that it may have been cut off, but not sure which. That's just all that we have in the response field. And then moving on to Sublime with a question.
You're muted if you're speaking.
I am muted, and I was speaking. I'm saying I appreciate the opportunity here. I typically go on the budget side. You guys are amazing. Yeah, as far as this goes, so I didn't know you guys over here. There's a commercialization size to the open source committee. Right.
We're currently hosting that working group. So commercialization utility. If you are in the Discord there under the OSC working groups, you'll see that channel, that forum. So that's where some of the work is being discussed, and then they will actually meet today. They meet bi-weekly at, I think it's 4 p.m. UTC.
Yeah, and I think I looked at some of the stuff like Cardano sustainability and things like that, which is pretty amazing. I was wondering how, because I looked at the POSM and some of the items in the budget around the open source, and when I looked at that, I didn't quite see how that was directed towards like sustainability for the most part, right? I was trying to see how that would fit in, because when I looked at the POSM items, it was more like, hey, it's like expecting people to pay to use a free park, kind of in that type of a model. Unless I'm understanding it correctly, I could be completely ignorant of how things function.
So I'm trying to pick up from where you're coming from. I'm not sure if you're referring to specific items, but if this is regarding the placement of commercialization and utility in the paid open source model.
Does that fall in there as far as the commercialization in there
So
too?
yeah, you have two different streams of where the money goes to flow. So the open source committee and the office are using specifically the budget items in the treasury to support open source libraries. But I didn't want to leave products out on their own. So that's where we have the commercialization working group to be a supporting arm to either set up an accelerator and or business model training, or helping connect and partner and network projects to clients. And that way you're not using necessarily the treasury for that under the open source, but there's still a support mechanism, because nothing existed for that for products. Now, in the future, the working group may go to another committee if one gets stood up for that, but right now we're fostering it because there's no other home.
And I like that. I did put an idea forward as far as a kind of, let's say, quote unquote business arm which include incubation for where Intersect would be incubating projects and doing like a profit share as far as like 10% for 5 years for doing that, and where projects as far as aligning with commercialization, as far as where it was like for 3 years, 5 years, for using Intersect's governance model, for using, marketing structure, for getting that set up, like 5%, 10% of the profit sharing from that particular project for 5 years. Intersect would, get profits from that for so many years or forever. If they're providing services for that particular project, for incubating and providing those services. And that's what I had proposed earlier. I don't know where that got to, and I think it went to that particular committee. I don't know if it came across you guys or anything, but that was kind of like the idea, and it sounded familiar to what you're saying right now about like project incubations and working along those lines as far as commercialization.
Yeah,
So-
it might be an extension of it. But I think we'd have to move that conversation in the commercialization working group, which meets in an hour and a half from now, just so we don't move the OSC agenda off schedule.
Oh yeah, no, everything just seems to be tied in. I'm so sorry. I'll be quiet now.
No, you're good. I'll be on that call, so happy to pick it up there.
Okay.
Christian has also put a link in the chat to that meeting, so if you copy that from the chat.
All right. I won't distract you guys.
No trouble. So yeah, I was just going to draw a line in the sand. I mean, you brought up a great point there. That I can see where you do see some similarities here as far as project incubation and the commercialization efforts there. The idea here is that these projects that are coming for incubation are, in a little bit of a struggling phase, right? Or they need to verify if they are fully mature and can put forth those proposals. But I would also speak to something else I'm aware of, which is that the newly founded Growth and Marketing Committee has decided that they are going to be opening up an enterprise adoption and growth working group. So I do expect for commercialization and that working group to have some shared work, if you will. so it can bring better enterprise adoption to the chain, which is another effective definition of having that commercialization piece in the paid open source model. So, Johnny, I saw your questioning face there. If that requires more detail, we can.
It was just interesting to find that out.
Yeah.
The Growth and Marketing Committee have been trying to define themselves for some time now, so and what's under them. So yeah, that was interesting to hear.
Text real fast to bring it back to this. Maybe at the bottom of this doc, we should put a rationale section to connect the committee's thoughts, and then put like a yes, no on whether we accept the proposal. That way we have info to email back to the sponsors. But to your point, Johnny, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it comes up, because you have two different audiences. Commercialization's more the people running businesses, and then the growth of marketing's more the marketing aspects of it. So it'd be interesting to see them try to unite.
Well, I think they're leaning more. I think they're leaning more on the growth side than the marketing side with that one.
Yeah.
That is actually a direct remit out of ISC. Just for more information there, when GMC came to be, they said they did not want it to be a sole marketing committee. They did say that they wanted it to be also focusing on growth and partnerships.
So if everyone... Oh, sorry.
In that sense, is it possible to the emergence of two different lines of incubation? For example, I think in the OSC, we are in charge of curating or protecting some projects that can bring a general benefit in terms of the dev ecosystem. But there are others, for example, these proposals that can bring some kind of commercial benefits, right?
Yeah,
maybe
it might do good to put some diction around it, where incubation is projects that are going to come under the Intersect GitHub, and then an accelerator is our extension program where projects can be hosted wherever, but you can get business acumen out of it.
What I mean is maybe it's not these projects are not bad projects, but maybe they should be evaluated by the commercial side of Intersect, for example.
Just to bring it up, as it was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, Charles is against, proposal review by Intersect committees in a centralized way, and wants DREP involvement in a more mainstream way. So whatever comes out of that meeting might disrupt the process that we're working on even now, potentially.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Well,
there's some insights to that. And right now, basically with the OSC's budget too, you still can put the budget proposal forward and just say that this specific line item comes under the OSC to manage, or whatever body you want, and DREPs may approve or disapprove it. It's just we can't reject any proposals that come through is the kind of core remit. But our programs and our budget kind of require us to be a facilitator. Just because you don't want 100 DREPs to have to sign 100 different maintainer contracts under the retention program, etc.
Well, this is the practical difficulty with Charles's vision.
Noted. Ben?
Yeah, not only that, if Intersect is unable to reject a proposal, we could obligate ourselves to oversight of delivery on projects that aren't feasible.
Yeah,
Very
well,
valid
and
point.
that's where I'm advocating that even if we can't reject, us as an institution should be able to put recommendations on it, because that's the core remit of the TSC, right? To tell you whether something's technical feasible or not, and then DREPs can use our education or our recommendation on it to make their own decision, if that's where it needs to lie with.
I don't want to get into the politics, but they're so close to being discussed right now. Let's continue.
Yeah, okay, just to quickly go back to that, I think next change, everyone kind of was leaning towards no on supporting it.
Yeah.
Can we just capture the key points of rationale as to why not?
Well, one was that it's not a if we're talking about tooling or library or something that everyone can use as a resource to build upon. It's not that. It's a product. It's an end product. Yes, they could use the contents of the code for it in an open source way to contribute or build from there, but it's not underlying resource for everyone. So there's one later on that is the serialization library, which is evidently for everyone.
And you mentioned really well, Christian. It's about libraries and tooling that can provide a service for the ecosystem, for the ecosystem building. Another thing.
So it may just be that it's come to the wrong port rather than it not being viable at all.
Okay.
Sandeep?
Yeah, in my opinion, they already have a roadmap where they want to go. So from the product perspective, coming to Intersect and there's an open one, I think there might be conflict of interest or directions that might not be suitable, or even the oversight.
Okay. So I think we're in consensus then. All hands up in favor of no.
We cannot vote on this meeting.
Oh, we're not at quorum?
We don't have a chair nor a vice chair.
Ah, yeah.
We have
So it's
no
not a decision time.
So
Apologies.
everything can be adjusted in the documents here. I can go through each document if you guys want. Again, this is treated more as a work session right now. Or if going
I'd
through
like
one
that.
is sufficient, I'll make sure that it's copied over.
At the very least, I'd like to go to the one that says will be provided in 2 months' time, will be provided in 2 months' time, will be provided in 2 months' time, just to get people's opinions on that.
No problem. I think that was rewards calculation, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I
No,
think
it might be the other one. It might be the one that's connected to this carbon credit system, the one for DeFi.
These set of
It might be-
proposals
it
are
might be.
actually perfect for us curating this. You might as well go through all of them, Tex. We'll just capture key
I'm
points
up
of
for it.
rationale.
Okay.
Sublime.
Yeah, and it's like, so when I hear like things being split up, like, you know, it is already in some places at Intersect, you know, incubation over here, incubation over there. It's like, I think it has a tendency to lose focus and things develop separately, and especially when it comes to funding and, you know, going forward. You know, so why can't we just have like just one? If we're going to do an incubation, just do an incubation and have things streamlined into the segments or wherever that, you know, they belong. Why are we going to have incubations all over, regardless if it's a project needs help because it's in critical condition or it's a new project? It's still an incubation, right?
Well, you have different definitions on what organization is hosting it. So if it's the parent company just wants help, you're talking more of an accelerator type thing. But if they want to shift their source code to an organization, like for example, the Linux Foundation, there's a whole project incubation review process. That's what I'm replicating here for TSC OSC in doing that process. So this would mean Intersect now shares partial liability with your project. You still retain the IP, but we also help with the licensing, building community stuff, and there's more direct investment. So that's why it's different from those two aspects. And then from the Intersect side, we're narrowing the criteria for what we're willing to host. Whereas the other piece with an accelerator, that term gets flip-flopped with incubation all the time, but they are two different separate remits.
What I do understand here is that it might be confusing to people, right? So if there would be just one touch point where you say, I want to go into some kind of incubation, and the next question that you see is it a commercial project, or are you going the open source way and you want to provide a library for the community? Then maybe you have this like two different parts from here, that one goes to OSC and the other goes to some kind of conversation?
There already has been triage, but I'm not sure if it's specific to this kind of thing, like which committee, which path. But triage has come up before about where to put things that come through.
We do need to rehash or even rather create forms that can accept general project submissions, and that may route things more to us, or again, that may just improve upon how these projects come to us and whatnot. So that it's all developmental, and some of it is, again, relevant to the budget conversation. So I would expect that as we get into Q2 here, that a lot of this will be refined, and definitively Q3, Q4, we'll have what I would say is probably some forms across the organization. If there's not one general one, then at least for open source, we'll have a couple of forms, but I don't think we'll have more than 2 or 3. But we'll just revise those like we would our standard documentation. So future development is what I would say. But what we have, we can review and jump from. We don't have to start completely from scratch.
Yeah, there's a lot of framework that's been built for things that can be adapted to any final workflow. The workflow isn't defined, especially again because of this meeting off the back of Charles's Twitter space and subsequent meetings. So we're still waiting to hear if there's going to be any fundamental change.
On this, couldn't it be that a starting point always become the Intersect MBO.org? Like they become a member and have an option from
Ideally, you'd want a form that's adaptive as it comes in. That's a universal form. People self-identify what group they come under, and then they get to go through the specific questions, and it goes to the specific group that they've requested. That doesn't preclude the idea that they'd fill in for all 2 or 3 just to see if they could have a go at every option. But people might self-select down the path that they feel they're most relevant to, as long as enough context is given for them to choose that path. Kind of like choosing your faction.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe basically the incubation at a high level is just the process of bringing it into Intersect, but we can get rid of our submission form and go to any specific standard. There's just additional questions that'll be required on a follow-up, so we have all the information to review.
Also, you could start by saying, do you want to move your entire repository to be under the auspices of Intersect? And if that no is the answer to that first question, then you've eliminated one of the options.
Yeah.
I will cite just a quick response to that, and maybe it was just one opinion, but we did have Adam's opinion from previous where there was a caution of basically, hey, we don't want to be putting ourselves as open to say we want your repository.
No, I know, but I'm saying if there was ever an outcome where that was the path that was going to be taken, you could get people to say no from the outset, that they don't even want to accept that as a possibility.
Understood. I did want to direct this back since I was asked to share it. I have number 2 up right now. If we don't have any more questions on number 2, or rather don't need to see it up, I can go to number 3.
Which one's this one now? Oh, the DeFi one. Let's quickly through it. This isn't the one that says in 2 months' time and 2 months' time. This is the one that already. This is the one that already exists in the EVM chain and is migrating over to Cardano. Is that correct?
I think so.
My question is what gateway means in this case. Is this something that others will use, or is gateway here an application, a product already?
It's about they're claiming it gives people access to fiat money loan through decentralized ecosystem, and USDA, I think, is what they were saying they would be using, if I remember correct. And it already exists in EVM for access to fiat loans through an on-chain service. So it sounds very product-like.
On this, if I'm understanding correctly, they want to expand to Cardano. I did check there is early access button, but yeah, there's an email address to fill in. So from the product perspective, not sure if it is fully compatible with Cardano. Well, they already say that they have multiple EVM chain support. So why on Cardano would it be a good fit? Like even if it is not the main focus of the project, as an expansion to Cardano, that's pointed here. So in my opinion, it is not ready enough to be onboarded to Intersect.
They're arguing that their value is that they'll be the first product to use to provide it. What is it? Hang on. We aim to also be the first DeFi use case for USDA and offer our novel fiat loan flows to both individuals and institutions who can leverage their crypto collateral. So yeah, and they also later on say they want to integrate with the previous proposal, which was the carbon credit system, as a part of their collateralization for loans. So they seem to go hand in hand with the previous proposal.
Yeah,
It does sound
well,
like another commercial project. Yeah.
yeah. I'm wondering if it's part of their protocol is open source and then they have a commercial aspect on top of it for this. Otherwise, it kind of just doesn't fit the remit. Which I understand moving like that's why Hedera's source code is at the Linux Foundation, but obviously you still have their commercialized.
I believe they linked to a
inside.
repository in this proposal somewhere. Do they? If my memory serves me, it's further down.
I haven't looked at this one in detail. I think it's up above, is it not?
There's the maintainer file, so there's definitely something.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, Emergo Labs, CCF Loans, Maintainers MD.
It's been a little bit up in the previous page, I think.
Oh, it's just roadmap. Well, let's have a look.
You can go to the main page.
The question is, does this repository mainly refer to EVM code? If they're planning to expand into Cardano, have they actually done this yet, or is it just the roadmap, or have they done?
I mean,
I don't.
Sorry of interrupting. There's some icon files in there. So I can see some icon. There's a TOML file. There was a log file. There was some things there.
Can you see what the license is on this text?
I was going to ask that next.
There's not one.
Interesting. Go to the Insights tab.
Top right.
Yeah.
You know where it is.
Sorry, I thought you just.
And then Community Standards.
Thank you. It's my first time playing on repo.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah, they're missing a lot of core stuff.
It's been a whole year. Come on, man.
So
Hey guys,
Yeah, I would say this is one of those doesn't even meet minimum qualifications.
I was
So,
going to.
we can argue the open source aspects later, but if you don't even have your license on there, that's an immediate rejection, in my opinion.
Okay.
Fun.
Anything else on Fusion? Okay. Going to 3. Sorry.
We can save some time. Let's just check to see if they all have licenses.
Yeah, I think there's only one for CSL, which is defined. For others, I did not see any license.
This is the one that's the most interesting to me. We'll provide this in 2 months. We'll provide this in 2 months. It's like, I don't know if that's acceptable. I guess they're saying that they need to do something before they can provide it, maybe.
It might be one of those they're hoping to see if they can start the repository under Intersect, but I think you need an MVP before applying stance typically, right?
Yeah,
There-
so
there- mm,
and
Go
I'd
ahead.
say there's some conflicting discussion around this when we were first going over what our budget stuff is. And again, the incubation program is designed to be, you've received Catalyst funding, but you're not yet successful, right? And is there a maintenance issue? Is there a build issue? What exactly is going on, and how can we incubate that to a maturity phase? And that's the difference. So yeah, if you don't have your MVP, we're not saying that we're going to leave you out to dry if you haven't received Catalyst funding, but that kind of tells the story in and of itself. And it's not that you have to have that as a requirement either. It's just, where are you at in that stage, and are you planning on submitting for Catalyst? If you are, that's the way you got to go. And if you've already had it and now you're no longer seeking it, but you're needing other support, are you needing specific support to the open source methodology, or are you just looking for financial support? You want financials, go wherever you want. But you want to actually improve the open source piece of it, then yeah, let's come here.
Yeah, to Morris's point in chat, like, they make a bold claim, but they don't seem to allude to how they want to get to their claim, which is being able to provide calculator without having to rely on something like Koios or API calls or a Cardano DB sync installation. So they're trying to do simulation of potential rewards on Cardano without referring to the chain, which is fascinating as an idea.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have a redundancy thing here too, because the CF just released a rewards
Yes, they
calculator too. So
yeah, that was taking on an existing project that had been around for some time, and then reworking it to be a Cardano Foundation incubated product, I guess. Yeah, because that calculator was one I was using previously in 2022 to show people projections of potential rewards on different pool settings, and it was actually more complicated back then. It's been simplified for the CF implementation. So yeah, this exists, but it doesn't. But they're trying to say it's better because it doesn't require Cardano DB sync installation and doesn't require API calls. But then it's only going to be static, and it will need to be updated to reflect any changes.
well, and I think too, this raises another question about this process, because we already have DB sync hosted. So do we host conflicting things, like different smart contract languages in the future? Or, I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. Moritz?
I think we should. I don't think we should focus too much on monoculture.
I don't want to be a kingmaker.
It's not about kingmaker, but it's I don't want to run into like, okay, we're only doing X, and we're doing X for, I don't know, ideological or whatever weird reasons, or because it's the entrenched solution and whatnot. We should focus on diversity, even though that might be a slightly loaded term these days. In general, I think we should really focus on supporting multiple technologies, even if they slightly overlap.
I want to support that, and as part of the project lifecycle phases that we have there, when we have multiple projects that are competing, at some point the community or the market will decide for one or the other technology. I don't think long-term competing solutions will prevail, but we don't have to be the ones to decide that. And then we have that final phase of archiving or sunsetting a project once everyone has migrated to one solution. So open source does have a tendency of coming up with one widely accepted standard.
I think it was Sandeep and then Sebastian, then Moritz.
On this topic, I think Intersect should do that. But there should be a differentiation, at least some differentiation between the projects, why it makes sense to onboard the next similar project or competing project. There has to be some new thing there, some novel approach. Otherwise, it could be considered like a waste of resources. So there has to be a reason that it should be accepted.
In any case, it's definitely not mature.
Are we talking about this CSL, right?
This reward calculator proposal in front of us.
The calculator.
I moved to CSL.
Oh, sorry, that's mature. The serialization library's been around for a while.
We're down to 5 minutes, so I had moved this just a few minutes ago. So
Because I think back in the day, the CSL was a widely used library, but in the same line, it was a complete headache for developers. And I remember how devs ask continually to Emurgo, okay, when do the guys are gonna repair, fix this library? So I have my opinions about this.
It seems to get updated along with hard fork, so it brings parity
Yes,
with whatever it is.
I don't know the current situation, but I think if the CSL is up to an incubation program or as some kind of support from the tooling work group. Done. Okay, thanks.
Roy is alive.
Yes, yeah. And I agree with what Moritz just wrote here in the chat. It's just my gut feeling right now, but I also believe CSL is around for a long time and has matured for sure, and it has been used widely. I think it maybe not anymore so much, but it is definitely a library, a piece of software that is has shown a lot of benefits to the community, to the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I think the CSL deserves a kind of a poll promoted by our advocates and start to bring to gather information about in what extent this really in reality this library is used currently. But definitely is a library that we need in the ecosystem.
Okay. Well, and if we do adopt it, we can drive more feature involvement from users too.
I was looking at the contribution. There's other hands. I'll wait.
well, we got to go to Thinkit. Let me check the order here. Yeah, Sandeep and then Jurg, and then we are just about out of time there. So.
I do have one 5-minute thing I have to get across today too for the OSC on the accelerator.
I'll be quick. Regarding CSL, I do think it is a good fit because it is used by the developers. I know many projects who depend on it. It might not be the best, but it does have value. So from that perspective, my vote on this would be a yes.
Is it possible we could bring up votes on these proposals on Slack? Bring these up for a vote.
Out there.
Yeah, that works.
Then maybe we don't need to reiterate on these next time.
Just a quick question, sorry. The idea is if this proposal come to fruition in the incubation program, the repo will be part of the Intersect under the Intersect repos. In other words, no more Emurgo, a new beginning in Intersect.
Correct. So if
Okay.
OSC and TSC agree, we would fork that repository over or move it to Intersect and have them archive it on their end. And Emurgo would be a contributor through Intersect to the project, but it would be Intersect that helps facilitate the development.
Awesome. Thanks.
George?
In the interest of time, I'll take it offline.
Okay.
Okay. So Tex will put votes up in the Slack. The thing I also need to get a vote on for the commercialization working group was their proposal. We extended it to 2 weeks. They did include a breakout of minimum cost, that it may be between 35, but they're still holding up to the 50K. Anything that's not utilized will be returned, is the stance.
That seems fine. Coming in under budget isn't terrible.
Yeah, and most of everything else has stayed the same. They just included some demo stuff. But John Woodward with Waltham is completely going to help drive this program because he's done several accelerators in the past.
Nice, as long as we get to keep the structure and the way things are planned to be, that would be great. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and I'm already working the budget to stay relatively the same structure. And I think Intersect agreed getting the OSC budget across as one of their core KPIs altogether.
It was the one that had the least controversy in any public review that I was a part of. Like there was that 7-hour call where everybody looked at every sheet, and the OSC had the least controversial items. So it it might be like a good one to put up for a vote to D-reps, just because it doesn't seem to have much hate.
Yeah, well, everything was structured to be a test before we scale it.
Yeah, we had the luxury of starting, right, rather than taking over a running train.
Yeah. For the accelerator proposal, should we just do another Slack vote for that as well?
Considering we can't do, there's no chair or vice chair as been stated, we can't do a formal vote here. So yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. That's everything. Did anyone have any extra questions or anything?
Existential ones, but they'll wait till next week when we know more.
Yeah, which I've been clued in that the developer report that'll come out Friday will include all the latest info. So hopefully Jack is able to get that out.
It's nice to know. I'll find out through public newsletter. I'll go read that when it comes.
Yep, I'm here if y'all need anything. I'm still trying to sync once they finish the meeting minutes.
A potential shoulder to cry on, eh, Christian?
Yeah, well, one shoulder's taken up for myself, so
we'll keep each other through.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll drop the session. Thank y'all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Yep. See y'all on the call later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.